Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the Rad Gaming Podcast. I'm Jemshi.
And I'm Pescador, and in this episode of the podcast, we discuss some of the new games that were announced for E3 and some of the new challengers that have arrived for cloud gaming.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Cento Fiore. Cento Fiore is a lifestyle fashion brand that sees beauty in cultural heritage and always strives to offer timeless and elegant style. Visit cento-fiore.com to join the family. That's cento-fiori.com. And the Rad Gaming Podcast is now a part of Big Heads Media. And with that, let's get on to the podcast. Ready, man?
Yeah.
Is that like a movie where they're like...
Yeah, that was from a movie.
I don't know which one it is, though.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, yeah.
It was the talk between Matthew McConaughey and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right.
I always remember that part. I love the part when he's
movie,
like,
but I've seen that scene.
I like how he, like one of the parts that I absolutely love in that movie is the part when he's just standing on his yacht and he's just like tossing that money over to like an agent that's trying to find like if his all these fun coupons, like he's just throwing them all. It was just really funny to me. I don't know why, but him and what was that guy? Who's the guy that played in Superbad? The big heavy set dude, Jonah Hill. Oh
yeah.
He was really funny in that movie too. He like got high on cocaine and just started masturbating right in the middle of the party.
No, that was...
Don't you remember that part of the movie?
What movie was it?
Wolf of Wall Street?
No, I said I haven't seen that movie.
Oh, I thought you said you
the
did
one
see the
scene
movie.
where they're doing like the.
Yeah, I think everyone's seen that one. Yeah.
I feel like I've watched every movie through YouTube. I watched like because I don't know if you've seen it. Like they have like the top 10 clips of movies, and you can watch all top 10 and then watch like pretty much like the highlights of all the movies in like maybe 20 minutes or less.
No,
Yeah.
I
So I just watch the highlights. So I'm like, I kind of get what's going on, and then I read the synopsis, and I can be like, okay, well, let's put this character here in my head, and he probably did this.
That's not fun though. I love being able to quote things. Like
we'll quote it and then actually feel like you invested time.
Yeah, I mean, I did like people don't forget kind of thing. Like that was like 30 years ago. It's like people don't forget. It's super bad.
No, see, I guess I missed that quote.
Or like the one part, like cops doesn't come on until 4. The whole yeah. Just that movie was ridiculous. I'm sorry. It cracks me up every time I think about it.
Of that movie. I think I have a very bad habit of not watching movies all the way through or just not watching them at all.
That is a terrible habit. That'd be really frustrating for me. Like, I have to know what happens in movies. Like, if I see it, I'm like, either just wasting my time or I'm going to watch this the whole way through. And, like, most of the time, I'm just like, all right, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's fine. As long as I could say I sat there and watched it and gave it a shot, and then I'll give a fair synopsis and somebody else.
Actually, because in St. Louis, we have the Muni, which is the Municipal Theater. I think that's what it stands for. But it's like a outdoor theater where you can like
an amphitheater.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's Municipal Amphitheater. I think is what the name is. So that's why I was like, I don't think I had it right. But yeah, they have that, and it's outside, and then and during intermission is always the time where every time I've gone with like my family or just like with friends or something, it's always the time everybody goes, do I want to sit here and watch the second half? And then like that's always the moment when you come back and you're like, there's a lot more seats open than I thought there were. Or you're like, oh man, parking is, or what is it, traffic's not as bad. Because if you stay until the end, traffic's insane.
Yeah.
There's one exit out of that parking lot, or maybe there's 2. But it's like, if there's 2 exits out of a parking lot filled for an entire amphitheater, like, you just don't get out. Like, it's a whole nother hour you have to commit just to getting home.
That's the worst though. But the thing you got to determine is there's some times that you should leave games early and not. But talking about games anyway, you said St. Louis, and I know that the Blues won the Stanley Cup.
Yes. So for those who don't know, the St. Louis Blues have never won a Stanley Cup. They've been to the Stanley Cup Finals
Yes.
multiple times.
But they've never won a single game in the playoffs.
Right.
Oh, not the playoffs.
The finals.
Yeah, the finals. Yeah.
Right. And they were the underdogs for this season, I believe, are very close to it. I know that the odds for them winning was like if you were to bet on it, it was like a 250 to 1, which was
And I can only imagine if someone did make that bet. Because they were I think they had the worst record before January, and then after that they really shaked things up and they brought some people in and they really changed their style of play, which was really impressive. And I know we're talking about hockey right now. We're talking about E3, and there's a lot to talk about at E3, and there's a lot of games, but it kind of brings me to my next question in general. I know that in hockey, the reason why no one can really guess who's going to be in the finals, unlike the NBA or say baseball, like the MLB, is they have salary caps. And in the NBA, you can have a franchise team that like has a ton of money. They can just throw it at players constantly and bring people to their area. And same with baseball. But NHL has salary caps. And the question I have is, do you know if there's any esports teams that have salary caps, or are they just allowed to have as much money as they want and throw it at whoever they want?
So actually, I looked into this because this was the thing we mentioned in the last podcast. And I saw that there was no salary cap. A lot of it is just prize pool money, is where a lot of these people, like, they get paid like it seems to me like a lot of these esports, players or gamers or esports athletes, I could say. They get paid like a basic kind of like salary, like just to kind of maintain their, the fact that they can live on their own and practice every day on this game, whatever game they're playing. But the prize pools is where they actually make a lot of their money, and they're part of like their esports organization will obviously take a little bit of a cut because they do have coaches, which is also something I didn't think about with esports teams. A lot of them, if it's like a probably not as big or something, like it might be like a new emerging game, they may not have a coach, but the coach may not be the coach that current, like for regular sport athletes would have.
So you brought up a really weird point. I want to interrupt you really fast, and I'm sorry for doing so, but are the coaches there during the actual game?
Yeah, during the actual match or whatever, they have their actual coach come up. And I know I've seen with Super Smash Bros, there's like the meme with that one where there's the competitive play, there's Hungry Box, and his coach comes up and basically tells him oh, you got to do this and stuff on the edge guard, and comes up and tells him halfway through the match, which is illegal for play. So then his opponent's coach comes over and just starts miming random things, just just to make fun of him. Wow, his coach just totally did something illegal. Let me just pretend I'm breaking the rules too. And then because of that, they ended up just nullifying it, because they're well, if you guys both had your coaches come up and talk to you, even if the one was just they were how do we know that he wasn't signing to him in ways that we weren't? But it was very obviously mimed, because he was doing the kind of.
And it's strange to think about, because you see MLB coaches come out of the dugout when something happens and they're freaking out and they're getting mad. It's funny to think that something like that can happen in esports, when the coach kind of just comes out and does some kind of crazy thing because they're furious about a call or a non-call. In that sense, I guess it's actually really really funny to think about.
I don't know what would be. I'm trying to think what would bring a coach out, because I guess with esports there's not a lot of room for wrong calls or something. It's only if there's a glitch in the game or a bug that something would go wrong. But as in baseball, the ump makes a wrong call or something that the coach thought was, no, dude, you're totally making some wrong calls here, or something. Like, or
But
that
I'm
was
sure that
totally
people
safe,
pull
or that
like
was
illegal moves, right? I mean, I remember a while back in one of the podcasts you talked about some guy noticed that there was a screen above him, very high above him, that showed the opponent, playing from their point of view. So he was like glaring up at it and then
yeah, he
also
was just kind
playing
of like
off of that. So I
taking
mean,
a
that
quick
would,
glance
in
and
my
stuff. So
opinion, that would bring out the coach, and he should lose his mind over that and be like, that's illegal. You can't do that. They should be disqualified, kind of thing. But
yeah, I don't know. I find that interesting. Is I guess I don't know if it's just like esports coaches want to have um like I guess like rage quitting or being like angry is like gamer stereotype, and I guess like if there's
yeah,
like an angry coach out there that like every time something happens or like, oh man, he was like yelling too loud or something and breaking
yeah.
the rules would, you know, totally
I,
be unfair.
it's so with you saying that the fact that they don't have a salary cap, but they get prize pool money. So are all the big teams basically able to pay more for the better quality players? I guess you can say.
Yeah, so I guess that is another factor into how the teams are formed is
Yeah,
that I know I guess I can use Rocket League as an example just because I've followed that a little bit more, competitive Rocket League. So smaller teams are some like formed, like let's say that, you know, Pescador and I wanted to form together and make a, you know, Rocket League duos team, and we'd go on and play competitively. And let's say we were doing really well. You know, gaming organizations would probably notice us and be like, "Oh, hey, we want to grab these guys. These guys are good. We probably want to have them on our backup or something like that."
yeah.
And other like, so basically there's like kind of like the bid where like, well, how much are you gonna, like Pescador, I can say they're like, well, so and so is gonna pay us, you know, I don't know what like a salary would be for us, but let's say it's like
Competitive
1,000 a
Rocket League
month, like,
team. Yeah, I
oh,
don't
pay
know.
us 1,000 a month, and then somebody other comes over and like, well, I'll pay you 1,200. Somebody, and we're like, okay, this is our highest bid so far, and then we can probably walk to other leagues and be like, hey, here's your chance to grab us before we sign a contract, and like, all right, 1,500, you know, like 1,500, and
And
then
that's the tough part, though. So that creates an easy avenue for bigger teams or the ones that actually win constantly to pull the bigger names and the better players onto their team, which does, in my opinion, really hurts the game in a sense that doesn't create too much competition. If they all had in my opinion, a salary cap, there'd be a level playing field because let's be honest, so many teams entered the Stanley Cup, and the St. Louis Blues, they weren't predicted to win the Stanley Cup, but they ended up winning it because salary in the salary cap era, it's very easy for a team to go in there unnoticed, and they have the perfect matchups because everyone's kind of equal on an equal playing field in a sense, because
right.
they can't
They could have a good
overpay.
goalie, but they probably don't have any good offenders or anybody to score
Yes.
goals.
So it depends on where you spend your money. It depends on, that kind of stuff and how you play during that time. It makes it very even. But let's put the NBA, for example. I mean, look at Golden State. They had tons of money to just kind of throw around and pick up big name stars to come. And they're like, oh, come play with all these guys. Like the Heat did it a while back. I don't really know NBA too well, but I do know the Heat was a juggernaut way back in the day when they had LeBron and oh my goodness. See, it's exactly what I'm saying. I can't remember his name now. Dang it. There's two other guys that I can't.
Oh,
Bosh and I don't know. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is like Golden State did it for a while after that, and they like won the last couple in a row. But I think that when that happens, it's very tough for anyone to come out of the work and be like, all right, well, we can offer you this amount of money. I know that they're offering you a ton more, but you should take a discount and play for us because you could be the star of our team, maybe. And that's like the best that people can really offer. You can be like, oh, instead of there being 6 stars over there, you can be the star of ours.
right.
Right? I don't know.
I guess that is
It's
something to consider. And then it's also like knowing that there's a salary cap makes you like you start capping out. Like if I'm too expensive, no team's gonna want me because they're gonna be like, well, I can have one really
Yep.
good player and then a bunch of very mediocre people, or would they rather have like a good mix of good and mediocre. You know, like
See, and that's the thing, though. I mean, you can get sponsorships, I'm sure, things like that, because that can kind of help you with a money situation that you really want.
oh, that's
And
true. I guess I didn't think about that. You can make money outside
so,
of the game too.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I wish, and I now I want there to be. I mean, maybe it's not the right thing to say, but I mean, I think a salary cap is the way to go, just because it creates a more competitive play amongst all teams instead of just one juggernaut team that can take all of it all the time.
But I think also the other thing to consider is that I think gaming is probably a bit too new for salary caps, in the fact that I think, let's say the salary cap is, I don't know, $1 million. I guess let's just a solid number just to kind of like do some math with. Some other game organization may not have $1 million at like this early age in gaming. You know, like now it's gonna be like, well, we got to put together this much money so that we can get a bunch of players that will add up to $1 million. And the thing is, like, a lot of people will be like, you know, like, I don't know. Like, I think eventually it will work out because people will be like, well, if they know, like, a salary cap team of, like, let's say, like, Dota or something like that, League of Legends, like, a team of 5, you know, $1 million cap would be, like, 200,000 per person. But then, like, let's say that a team couldn't afford all of that, you know, like, some person come up, well, I want 200,000. Like, well, we actually only have like 300,000, so we got to split that through 5, so everybody gets like 60K. You know, like.
See, and that's the thing. Maybe that they can't, like create an esports team. Maybe they can do like a minor league esports team or something, and that's the way that it might have to branch out until they're able to like win so many prize pools they can afford to go up a tier. I don't know. I'm not saying that salary cap is the way it should go. I mean, I think it should technically go that way, but I don't know if that's the correct way, is what I'm trying to say.
I think
it's just a way.
I think it's a good move, but I think it's too early. Like, just in my opinion, because I know that
and
like
I can see
the salary caps or something for the NHL is like 60 to 70 million or something like that. Or I think did that sound right? I think it was something where it's close to almost 100 million or something. It's getting up.
Trying to do the math in my head. I think something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, but they have like players on their bench and everything that they got to pay everybody too. Like, there's a lot of costs that go into that. It's like they need backup players in case people get injured, which happens in the NHL like constantly.
Yeah.
So like I can see that being like a reasonable number, and I think that's why it's like so easy to, you know. But I think with, you know, esports, I think the prize pools are also the other thing that makes me wonder that salary caps won't be a thing, is that they know that, oh, well, like, you could have a team in there and like be an underdog and just come in and win, you know, like there might be like and that they win a prize pool and then they win a certain amount of money. And I think like with the, you know, the Stanley Cup, the World Series, the Super Bowl, you know, like, I don't see them having a prize pool where like whoever wins like $10 million, you know, like, I don't see that happening with, you know, regular sports. And I think esports that's where a lot of the money is made for a lot of these people. I've seen that, you can go on the chart for like, I wish I could remember this site name, but, they have like esports ranking where they can show like who's made the most money from each game and what tournament they won and kind of all that stuff. And there's somebody who played, I think, it's Dota and StarCraft are like the top 2 games for if you want to play a game and try to make some big money, those are the games to play. But there are a lot more people playing those games, which is why the prize pools are bigger. But I think like the top 10 people have made like 4 million, 3 million each, like US dollars.
Oh, it's disgusting. That's
so like,
crazy.
can you imagine? And like, you have to think that those games have not been out for like that long, like, and like probably under 10 years. So you're like, okay, that, you know, baseball's been around for so long that if somebody were to make $4 million over the lifetime of baseball, you'd be like, okay, well, that's, you know, different. But like, you know, that like that, you know, Dota 2 and, you know, all those games just recently came up, and the amount of money that's in there so fast. Like, I don't know, like whoever was playing, you know what I mean? Because like now baseball is like, oh, you have to play it when you're a kid, kind of, to really get into, you know, playing it professionally. Like, you have to be playing these games when they first came out to kind of have the edge. You know, that's how Fortnite was. Like, everyone who played it before it was big kind of has the advantage. And then, you know, it's all about just the amount of time people put into it. And I can just imagine that, like, what game should you spend your time on now? Because they might turn into a big prize pool game.
Yeah, there's so much I guess, undiscovered about the possibility of esports. It kind of gets like your mind racing about where it's going to go and how it's going to be handled, I guess, because in my mind it's like the wild west right now. There's no law to wrangle it in just yet because they don't know what it technically is, I guess. I mean, I'm waiting to see what is to come of, I guess, the mess that is. That's not really a mess, but you know what I'm saying. It's just kind of like just so new that they're like, what should we do? How should we regulate it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I guess one thing I do want to bring up, that one more point, just to compare esports and
sure.
regular sports. I just thought of this now, so I think this is funny. Is that I thought what's really interesting is that gaming is the only time that you ever watch like an individual person play, like video, like on Twitch. Like you could, I don't see anybody doing that with like baseball, where they go to the batting cages and they're like, all right, man, like watching this professional baseball player like practice batting or something like that, like, you know, or he's getting donations on Twitch or something, or like a football player here in football practice or something.
Saying, yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, but I guess like I know a lot of those things that they try to keep their practice like secret, where they're like, oh, I don't want them to know my, you know, like the NFL, they don't want them to know different plays that they have or something like that. All the
I'm sure the same applies for, you know, certain things. Like if someone's playing Overwatch, then I'm sure they don't want to show their secrets to Overwatch as well. I'm sure that the individual can show themselves practicing like on their own time with like a random team, not so much their team maybe, but I'm sure it's frowned upon. I'm sure they don't like that.
It's just interesting that I know a lot of esports teams are just like, a lot of players are just so casually showing themselves playing the sport, like the game that they're like, everyone's like, oh, well, I know their strategy and stuff like that. I can't.
But maybe it'll change because it is so new. Maybe they're just like, you know what? Maybe it's something the coach might say, hey, pay attention to what you're doing here. Maybe that's what the coach will step in and say, listen, don't stream your stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know that there was I'll have to look at the names up afterwards, but there was I think it was either Dota 2 or League of Legends, one of the, you know, 5v5 games, is that they had like it was like one team from like Russia just like dominated. I think it was Russia. Sorry if that's incorrect, but there was like a team from Russia that just dominated like the whole scene because like they practiced and never like streamed anything, never did anything, and they like basically like created this whole new meta where they're like,
no one knew what they're doing.
Yeah, like no one knew like how to even counter it, because like, oh well, this guy, like they would like jungle but like gang up on the top one, and then when everybody's like freaking out, they're like, all right, well, it's time to attack the bot. Like they had like this whole method because they're like, oh, this works every time because no one knows how to like counter this. And then by the time everyone caught up, they were like already on like the next step. They're like, well, if everyone's countering it this way, let's like do like the counter where like now they think we're doing, you know. And they were just so far ahead that they like dominated and rose to like this incredible stature that like, because they didn't stream what they were doing, you know. So that's why I think like it's interesting that a lot of esports people kind of just don't seem to care. They're like, oh well, I'll make an extra buck, you know, streaming. And that's why I was thinking it'd be funny to like see some like hockey player or baseball player just like, oh, I'm going to the batting cages, you know. And then some team's like, oh man, he's really good at, you know, hitting these types of pitches or something, and start like taking those stats into account, you know. But
I'm trying to take into consideration that, you know, playing hockey or football is more of a team sport. And I understand that you're saying, I don't know if the individuals playing with their team. Like, I don't know if that's just, are they streaming with their team?
I guess the other thing to consider is that when you're playing, you know, like hockey and stuff, like your salary is probably way more than a gamer's salary, you know. And you're,
well, I don't know. I mean,
don't even feel the need to stream because they're like, well,
it depends,
just, you know.
Because like some like entry level hockey payment is like, I think it was like 200,000. So I'm sure that there's quite a bit of people like that's just like if you bring someone from the minor league team and they actually make it to the NHL, you can give them like a really low salary cut.
Right.
I think it's don't quote me on that, but I think it's 200,000. It could be anywhere between 200,000 and 500,000, somewhere in there. And I'm sure that there's some esports.
Right to what I remember. But like when you start playing longer and you have the stats to kind of back your, you know, self, you can.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure there's some or definitely gamers out there that, you know, are in esports that make more money than that. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the carefree nature of gamers in general. Couldn't tell you. But I do want to move on to E3 because I know that's been a huge topic of discussion, and it was going on for a while. And there's a ton of games. I know we talked about quite a few of them last time. If I remember, we talked about Cyberpunk 2077. What else did we talk about, Jemshi? You talked about
The Legend of Zelda. They announced
Legend of Zelda, yep.
the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and then they also had Link's Awakening, which was reimagined to the Nintendo Switch. So
yeah, and we talked about quite a few games last time, but there are so many games that have been announced, and actually there's a few games out there that I'm actually really shocked about, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Phoenix Point. Have you ever heard of Phoenix Point by any chance?
I have not, but I feel like the only thing that's coming to mind is that new Phoenix movie that came out for the X-Men, where it's like Jean Grey or something.
You don't watch trailers. How do you know this and I don't know this?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
Aladdin.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. I haven't seen Aladdin yet, but I want to see it. But no, Phoenix Point is a strategy game, and it's made by the makers of XCOM. So the way that they do it is it's a nice little turn-based tactical game that is actually different than other like turn-based games. And the way it's different is that they have you're fighting an alien race, and what it does is evolves to combat your style of play. So it depends on your tactics and your style. So so the creature itself can fit into a different type of its own self. Like it can combine with other
so like real time evolving. Like if you're more aggressive, it turns into a more defensive, or
something like that. So it counters
kind of like a rock paper scissors mechanic where
and that's exactly what it is. So it tries to see what you're doing, and they try to
find the one that counters it, and then you have to change up to battle it. Oh man, that's actually pretty cool, because then
it does, and it
battles
correct.
Every time.
So it changes your tactics each time, because then they morph to what you're doing, and that's going to help change the tactics of how you're going to play next. And that's what makes this game really interesting, because not only do they obviously have this, the AI being able to do that, but then they have a ton of different weapons that you could possibly use. They have a ton of customization, and it's just intense to think that I used to grow up with real-time strategy games and things like that, and nothing ever morphed to help combat the way I was playing. I think that was really neat. But they also have destructible environments, and it just I don't know. It's the kind of RTS that I was looking for way back in the day, but now they finally have created this, and it's actually really exciting to see it, because it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because I think a lot of them have always just been well, do you build up StarCraft? Do you build up your resources faster?
Yes.
Which you have long-term strategies and short-term strategies, as opposed to you have to adapt on I feel like it's not an adapt on the fly. It's just you have to know what they're doing, and by the time
you have to understand the race that you're playing against, and you're okay, well their specific strengths are this, so I shall do this because that's their weakness, kind of thing. And I
think that's cool, because each race would be different, and that okay, well, coming into it, you're I know this much, but the battle could be different by the time it's over. I think that's actually really cool.
Yes. I mean, I'm pumped about it, but there's literally a ton of games. So I saw that they're doing Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm really excited about this, because I used to play Final Fantasy VII with Cloud Strife, and I was really excited because this was, if I remember correctly, this was on PlayStation when I played it, and it was such a fun, in-depth game, but I broke it when I was a kid by accident. I wore the disc down, and I couldn't play it anymore, and I was heartbroken. And I know I think you've seen it at one point in time on my old setup. I had that game behind me, but I truly love that game. It was just so much fun, but it was that was the first that style, that kind of combat, you strike, they strike kind of thing, going back and forth. I loved that, and I really enjoyed it, and I was really sad when it broke. But I'm excited they're remaking it now. No, I didn't have any money. And how are you going to tell your parents, listen, I played it so much that I broke my, can you please borrow probably
I
anyone.
guess
Like,
that's with my siblings. It was like, oh man, we just played it so much that like, of course it wears out. And my parents are like, okay, well,
yeah, but I was the only individual playing it. At least you can
Yeah.
blame it on your brothers. But like, we all played it a lot. So like, he wore it out for 20 minutes. My other brother wore it out for 20
like the
minutes.
blame
I
was,
wore it.
like we're all equally to blame, and then now we're all out
Exactly.
of, you know, we can't play Smash Bros now because the disc
Yeah,
is too warm.
my sister, like I only have a sister, and she didn't play video games, so like she played for like an hour. I played for an hour. Like, it doesn't equate to the same thing. They knew it was me, so like I can't really sell it, I guess, but what have you. But also, there is a new Marvel's Avenger game that's actually coming out. I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm tapped out on the Avengers. After Avengers Endgame, I'm kind of just
universe. You think too?
I am for the time being. I know that they have a new movie coming out with Spider-Man: Far From Home, and I might just skip this guy just because I'm just superhero movies are kind of like the norm now, and I'm kind of superhero movie.
Like,
I hate to say it, but
there's always at least one superhero movie to watch. You know, that's how I knew. Like when I went to go watch Aladdin, you kind of walk like they kind of forcefully like or purposely design their theater that you have to walk by all like the coming soon things that are coming up on there. So that's how I know what kind of movies are coming up. And me being just the late person I am, actually end up being too late to watch a lot of the trailers. So I end up getting there while like they're like, oh, please turn off your phones, and I'm like, hey, I need to get over to my seat. Can you move? Like
you're that person. Oh man. Okay. Well,
at least I don't use my phone during the movie. I am definitely not that person.
Or you don't have a crying baby. That's the worst. Like, I hate to say it, and if you're a person that brings a baby into a movie, then you don't deserve to be at the movies.
Yeah, I just can't see how like that would just I don't know. Like, I feel like if I wanted to watch a movie and I had like a baby, I'd be like, well, I'm gonna wait for it to come on to like,
Yeah, because you're respectful, Netflix, and I'm not saying that every person that brings it. Like, I understand people want to see movies when they come out, but if you have a baby, like, pawn it off on your parents, pawn it off on your friends, do something with the baby, give it to somebody for 2 hours. Don't bring it to the movie theaters. This is where people go to watch the movie and actually get immersed in it. And it's hard to get immersed into a good movie when a baby's crying like 5 rows behind you the entire movie. It's happened to me, I think, 3 times.
Really? I've never had that happen to me. So I feel
like, are you serious? Lucky you.
Well, I don't go like opening weekend or anything ever. I go like when it's been a week or two, and then I go, and then there's like kind of people there. And
so twice it's happened to me during opening weekend, once past that. And it was what's really made me mad. The one time that sticks out, one time was Jungle Book, and the other time was Avatar. And I was extremely mad about Avatar. Like, because it was the first kind of movie that was, designed that way. And I was so...
You're talking about the James Cameron Avatar, blue guys on the planet Avatar?
Yeah. Have you seen it or... Yeah, no, not the anime.
I'm trying to like make sure which one it was.
Yeah, no, yes. I'm talking about the blue guys and the Avatar floating planets and the... Yeah, we're talking about that Avatar, and it was the first like movie just like that. It was so unique, and then this baby was crying like most of the time, and I'm happy, and I'm not, I guess I wouldn't say I'm happy, but someone behind me, like, I was getting infuriated, but someone behind me is like, can you do something with your baby? Like, and I like wanted to get up and clap really hard, but I refrained from doing so. A lot of people did, because that baby was just going nuts. But
yeah, I think if it's getting like out of control, like if there's something I can't do, I'd be like, well, I'll just try again next time to watch the movie. Like, I feel like there's when you have a baby, you have to like, I feel like that's something like, okay, well, like, I don't know. I guess they figure that maybe they're like, this baby cries all the time. I'm used to it. And then everybody else here, is
yeah, I don't. It's a rough one, but also we're gonna go on and say Doom Eternal was also announced, and that comes out November 22nd, 2019. So pretty soonish compared to the other ones. Like, I know that Cyberpunk's getting released later on in 2020, and a lot of other games are. I did kind of forget to say that Marvel The Avengers is actually getting released May 15th, 2020. So it's tough to. I'm not really excited about Doom. I grew up on, but they did add a little bit of different things, and Bethesda has, Doom in general this time, but it's, I don't know. I feel like Doom was tapped out a while back, and just the gameplay itself looks a little different. They kind of went back to the old school looking kind of Doom. It's a lot of like slash 'em, shoot 'em up, Doom like you kind of know from the past, which is kind of nice. I mean, I kind of like that kind of gameplay. I mean, I'll check it out for sure, because I hope I'm wrong in saying that it's going to be like all the other Dooms, but they have a different like kind of look and feel to this Doom. There's a lot of like executions that they showed on the trailer. It's pretty gory like all the other Dooms, and I'm really excited about that aspect of it too. But
maybe that's what
they
they're
did
trying
mention
to play into. Like they're trying to play into like the old Dune fans, like try to like get people to come back and play it as opposed to try to make
which I'm fine with, but it's the fact if they can pull it off. That's what I'm mostly concerned about, because the old Doom is super nostalgic for me. Like I liked Doom, like I loved Doom when it first came out. I was very afraid to play it because the demons, and like when I was a kid, obviously that stuff was scary to me, because for a game that was cutting edge Doom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but now that there's other games out there, this game has kind of go back to its roots in a sense from what I've seen. And the thing is that they've actually added an asymmetric multiplayer mode that I guess gets two players that are controlled by actual individuals like you and I, and they pin them against one Slayer, so they try to take that person out. So that's kind of interesting. I kind of saw that was a different take on it, but I mean, I kind of feel like it's. Have you ever played Left 4 Dead?
I have not.
Well, Left 4 Dead 2, they have a mode in which there's like a multiplayer mode that you have your 4 survivors, and then you also have like people that can actually play special aliens that not aliens. Geez, I mean, I'm thinking of Doom. Special zombies that actually can take out the survivors before they get to the safe zone. So I kind of think it's kind of like that aspect in a sense. I'm not saying it is that, but it's kind of like that, I guess. Yeah. But it's a different take on it. But I mean, what are you gonna do? So I'm excited to see what it's gonna do. I'm not really sure if it's the game that I'm gonna be loving, but if it could pull off the old school feel of Doom without
feeling like it's just the exact same thing, like, you know what I mean? You want something new.
Well, it's definitely new in the sense that like the gameplay and the style and stuff like that. But I'm afraid they're trying to go so old school with it and bring like the new kind of feel to it that they're gonna mess up the flow of the game, and that's what I'm afraid of. Yeah. But we shall see. But there is the Outer Worlds. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I think we talked about that, actually.
We have.
Yeah, and it's actually going to release October 25th, 2019. So that's actually pretty soon. And it's made by from Obsidian, which is pretty cool. They're actually the team that helped make Fallout New Vegas, which is pretty awesome. And the way it kind of looks is kind of Fallout-ish. So it's kind of like futuristic on a planet, and the same kind of concept about... You played Fallout New Vegas or Fallout in general?
I've actually never touched the Fallout series.
Oh, man, that's rough. You need to, because it's really good, and it's a really good RPG. I'd really recommend doing it. But the way it's set up... You see me play? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you have. So you know that like... old school vibe they get. So like the Pip-Boy, like they have like, like the 1940s kind of like cartoons they used to have, like
right, kind of that World War II era kind of style.
Yeah, it's like the propaganda kind of looking posters and stuff like that.
To me, that's what I kind of saw. It's like the,
kind of.
From what I understand with Fallout, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's supposed to be what would happen today if World War II ended differently. It basically ended in nuclear war, and it's kind of like what happens after that, kind of.
Sure, we'll go with that. Yeah, I mean, it's that basic concept, like the world got frozen in that era when the nuclear bombs dropped, And that's it's weird to say, but Outer Worlds actually kind of looks like Fallout, kind of like with that kind of propaganda era style, like cartoony vibe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that same kind of style, like art, the same kind of like, you know what I'm saying? The graphic art that they had in Fallout.
Where it all seems hand painted and kind of like.
Yeah, they've done it in this game, but they made it more futuristic and not so like depressing and decrepit and stuff like that. It's all based in the future. So if you could think of it in that kind of sense, that's kind of what this game is all about. So I mean, they have really interesting weapons. I've seen a few like interesting weapons they use in the game that can kind of slow down time. I saw in the game trailer, but it has potential. I think it's a pretty interesting game. I think it feels a lot like looks kind of like Fallout, but I guess on a new planet and futuristic. So, I mean, I guess that's not a bad thing. I loved Fallout, so I mean, I don't know.
Like something a little bit more Fallout without having to feel like the Fallout genre. Or, you know, like if this game doesn't work for you, you don't feel like the Fallout, you know, genre or not this franchise. I mean, like failed for you. You know, like if you played a Fallout, you were like, this is just like a spin-off that didn't work. You know, you'd be like, I can't play for Fallout anymore. You know, can't look.
What's sad is, and that's the thing. It was so. I was really disappointed with the new Fallout game 76. I was hoping for more, and the way they delivered it, like just as it just became like a new game, the way that there's so many bugs and everything that happened with that game was very upsetting to me. And I'm assuming that this kind of, I guess, glitches or bugs are going to be fixed and solved with this kind of thing. Like they're not going to run the same thing on when they release this game, and that's what I'm hoping too. I know it's not the same people that made the same games, but I'm saying it's the same kind of
you take when you're. And now it seems that's just so weird nowadays that like they're like, because like nowadays the gaming world is so competitive and like everyone's rushing to get their game out the door because they're like, we need to make the profits now so that we can start making the next game and make like the way to make profits is to make as many games as possible. So they have to like the teams have to, you know, smash through these releases, and because of that, the risk of, you know, bugs are a lot more frequent. It's funny because I think what used to be the problem with games like back when you bought like N64 is my dad dubbed these lame games, where you bought it and you were like, this game is just lame. Like they didn't have any like thought into it. They just kind of made a game and put it out there.
Yeah.
But it always worked. Like it was always like it was okay. It like
that's a great.
It was just like
that's a great point.
You were just kind of like left with it.
Yeah, and maybe they skip corners in certain parts, like, you know, they'd have an open world, quote unquote open world game, but they'd have like a lot of like drop off. So like there would be like some kind of crazy wall that's like they didn't do any art for. They just made like a wall and it's like there and you can't go past it. Or
you can tell like they just kind of did the bare minimum. And it's like it's so opposite like now, because now it's like they try to do as much and they didn't finish, you know?
Yeah, that's like, look how beautiful this is right here. But we forgot to do the back half, the actual important stuff that deals with servers.
With like trivia, like this is a piece of trivia, is that like Banjo-Kazooie, like the N64 game, actually had a lot more planned than they were able to finish on time.
Yeah.
And like, so there are like some of those like Easter egg moments where they're like, oh, well, we didn't finish it, but we'll make the second game, we'll put it in there. So they have like the second game, Banjo-Tooie. And there was supposed to be this functionality where you could, like, while the Nintendo was on, you could unplug your like Banjo-Tooie game, put the Banjo-Kazooie game in. Like, so put Banjo 1, take Banjo 2 out and then put Banjo 1 in, and it would like sync your game. So you would like, oh, if you beat the first game, it would unlock things in the second game, and it would like know how to like do that. And because they couldn't get that to work or something, because there was something they had to work around, that there's like a ton of stuff left over in like the second game.
And that's actually awesome that you mentioned that, because I'm actually going to go into the next game, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
And that's Dying Light 2. And they didn't really give a release date. This is spring of 2020. But I really thoroughly enjoyed Dying Light, the first Dying Light. It was actually really good. It was like a parkour zombie apocalypse kind of game. You made your weapons, you killed them, you did little missions. The missions were interesting. And the cool part about it, the first one was you actually feared being out at night because there was a really powerful creature that came out at night, a very powerful zombie, and it was faster, it was hungry, it wanted to kill you, and you actually felt that every time you went out, and it was really awesome. I really liked that. And the way that I'm going to tie this in with Banjo-Kazooie is the fact that this game is going to be an open world game, of course, but everything like access to the certain parts of the world are based off of your decisions that you make in this game. So you obviously, I mean, yeah, that's nothing cutting edge, but even through any given playthrough, the developer said that they'll only see about 50% of the total content on that game. So like no matter what you do, you'll see 50% of the content that's actually on that game. So you play a different way, you'll see like something different, but it's still not all the content. So like they made sure that you want to go back for more, and they changed the way in which you can play, which is really neat in my opinion.
I like that idea. I think that's actually like something I wish a lot of games had, because I like there's always the times where I wish I could play a game and then maybe something different would happen, or like I could do something different and then the game would end differently.
Fallout, or any kind of Outer Scrolls game, play it. I'm telling you, that's exactly what it is.
Problem with like I think those games also is that like it either feels like it's very limited or it's very like I think I don't like when it's very obvious where they're like, do the bad thing or do the good thing. Like, which one are you gonna? Like,
I don't. Very true, like,
for me, I think that's I know that's with Fable. I think has that mechanic where it's like, oh, the more evil you are, the more. Like I know that you can run around a town. Like if you've committed a bunch of evil deeds, everyone in the town fears you. Like that's like something that changes over the course of the game.
That's happened in Fallout multiple times to me. Yes, so yeah.
Like I guess like I like that aspect, but I think like I wish it like with this one like 50% of the content is now unavailable. Like I know with a lot of like, but the only I guess like the only problem is that like it's either very limiting and like what can be done, like how, because like when you have to create different, like every route you change, like okay, we have one game with one ending or something, there's another, that's one path you have to program and design and code, and then you have the other half, so like suddenly you've just kind of like doubled your work, and then the more you fork that and you have to make sure there's no inconsistencies, like the game design gets so overwhelming that most game developers just give up after a while and go, okay, let's make this. They give the illusion of choice. We're like, oh, well, you can do this, but the same ending is still going to happen no matter what you did.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but it's been a while since they made Dying Light. I don't know if they worked on other projects or they just worked on this specific one, which I'm assuming they probably, I would think they were working on a different project or something like that, but maybe they didn't. I don't know. But that is an awesome idea in general, and it shows that they actually care about the outcome of their game so much so that decisions will unlock certain parts of content, which is really cool. And obviously it doesn't sound awesome, but like when it only unlocks a certain percentage of that content, because maybe a different, like if you're neutral or like a little bit more evil, might unlock a little bit more, a little different play style or different ending. Like, that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it sounds like a completionist's nightmare though, because they can never get 100%. Because like, well, I never got to see everything in the one playthrough I had. I got to play it twice, And then when I play the second time, I'm missing out on the stuff I had before, or like I don't know. But if the storyline works in that way where it feels like you completed it, even when you didn't see everything, But 50% is like an insane amount of saying that you don't see it on your first time through. That to me seems like a big, incredible claim that I don't think a lot of other games can really make or have ever made.
I mean, I agree with you in that sense. I mean, just the idea behind it just gives, Fallout in general, back in the good old days of Fallout 3, there was a few ways to end the game, and you have to like decide on which way you want to end it. There's your good option, your bad option, but like it never funneled your playthrough of the game, so like you can only see X amount. So like there leaves so much more for you to like be like questioning what else could I see if it's only unlocking X amount of this game by ending it this specific way because I've followed this path. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm hoping more games will go to that kind of style, I guess. But we'll have to see. But I guess the last topic of E3, and this is probably one of your favorite topics, and I'm sure you can talk quite a bit about it, is cloud gaming. So I know last time you talked about Google Stadia. Do you want to maybe give like a little brief synopsis of Google Stadia? Because I know you still have those numbers in your mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Google Stadia is Google's cloud gaming service, I guess you can call it. And it's where you kind of can play on any device with an internet connection. And this includes mobile devices such as, like your phone. I think it's now it's just Google Pixels, but I think they're like hoping to incorporate other phones and stuff into the service. But it's supposed to release in November, and it's going to be $9.99 a month. And with this, you are able to play games that they have available, so you can just like sync through the internet, play it, connect to like a computer that Google has ready for you, and you can play the video game just like as if it were on, like, let's say I sit down on my computer. I don't have a very good computer, but I have an internet connection. I can play and connect to a computer that has a lot better, performance and stats and better RAM and better graphics cards. And all it does is it sends over the video stream to me. And with that, it actually cuts down on the amount of performance that your computer needs to actually use. Like, all you need to do is just be able to watch. If you can watch YouTube videos, you can play, or if you can watch Netflix or something on your computer, like, you can play on Google Stadia. So that's the service in I don't know, whether it's like a minute or two.
Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, there's so many other cloud gaming like the services out there, which I thought was pretty crazy because a lot of them came out during E3, and one of those is, I guess, Microsoft kind of announced their kind of I guess right. Yes, and I was gonna say their comparable service called xCloud. Thank you, but xCloud basically does the same exact thing Google Stadia does, but does it on less devices, which is actually shocking. They only announced they're actually supposed to take place on smartphones and tablets right now, but I'm assuming there's gonna be more to come. And they haven't really give a price point yet that I've seen.
Yeah,
but it's.
I
don't know. I'm expecting more.
Yeah, my speculation for the reason why they probably haven't announced that many devices is that they, unlike Google, they have a gaming console, the Xbox. So they don't want they want to make sure that when they're like they want to make sure they're competing in the cloud gaming space without ruining their Xbox sales, because like that's the last thing they want to do is be like, we have this gaming console, let's compete against our own product with cloud gaming, which I guess if you argue that's good. If you have like are you arguing like, are you going through console or cloud gaming, but you're trying to get that one gamer, if they're playing on like if they move from console to game or cloud, you want to still grab that guy. So I don't know. Yeah, that's what I would think, but I think that's the reason why is that they don't want to hurt their own sales because they're trying to come out with the new Project Scarlet, right? Scarlet, so yeah. Like I can imagine if they release.
I'm still blown away by Project Scarlet though. Like they said, like 8K resolution and 120 frames per second, which I'm hoping that's correct. 120
right.
frames per second.
That's the one thing I need to. What? I don't even know.
8K?
I've never even seen 8K.
Yeah, I purposely started looking. I started looking at actual TVs that are like capable of doing 8K. They're like $6,000, $5,000, somewhere in that range. Yeah, I haven't even looked up that there's monitor.
8K media isn't even like watchable. Like if you have, like even if you have a 4K TV nowadays, like I think maybe like the majority of the things you can watch are only in like 1080p or like, so like you're still not even getting 4K when you watch the majority of
but barely anything is, I mean, I'm saying like barely anything is 4K. I mean, a game is not many games
that's
are
what I was
scratched.
saying. Like, I can't imagine that 8K would even. And then this is the thing is that like, I don't know. Like,
I mean,
I like to see. I would like to see like a lot of that come to a more reasonable price. You know, because
who knows what price it's going to be, man? Because that's a lot of power in a console. So
I mean, they've always been pretty competitive, I guess, with their prices. It hasn't always like you know what I mean. Like I don't think they've ever released a
oh yeah, of course,
console for, like,
yeah,
1,000 or something. Like that's what I'm afraid of when you have 8K,
yeah.
you know, computing capabilities. Like
And
that's like
I'm looking at
you know better than my own gaming PC, which is you know what I mean.
yeah, of course. I could not do it on mine currently, my setup, but I don't even know if this is even legit. But I'm seeing like an 8K computer monitor for like 4.5K, like 5K. Like it's
Wait, like $5,000?
yeah, just the monitor itself.
Oh my god. Yeah, like
yeah, it's gonna be expensive, and that's why I'm really. I mean, I understand they built that capability in for the future, but like I'm saying that games haven't really even scratched the surface too much. I mean, you can make the argument there's games out there that are 4K and they're gorgeous. Yes, of course, but like not every game has really gone to that extent just yet.
Even if I remember whenever I looked into this when I first was like, oh, should I get like a 4K monitor or something like, and I looked into it and there's like maybe like a handful. And when I say a handful, I mean like less than 10 games out there that you have probably even heard of that are capable of like 4K, and that's like you know games that you might like. There's a lot of them are like racing games, like you know
Forza, you're probably thinking of is
like
I don't know.
all that stuff, like all those like Project Cars and like all those games are the ones that have 4K resolution. And if you don't play those games, you're actually only like you're now limited to maybe like 4 or 5 games that you probably want to play then. And you know what I mean? Like PUBG wasn't 4K,
Wait
Fortnite isn't 4K.
I'm looking.
So,
I'm not sure if this is true, but I'm looking. I just typed in 4K games, like video games, and if this is true, that's really interesting. But obviously Cyberpunk's going to be 4K. That's one of the things that popped up. They also said that Rainbow Six Siege is 4K. Is that true?
I didn't know about that one. I guess it might have been an update or something.
There's not very many ones that run 4K. From what I've seen from the list, I mean, this might not be the best list to look at, but it's really strange. I mean, I'm seeing like stuff in Assassin's Creed and
yeah, like Assassin's Creed,
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, like a lot of the most recent.
True?
Like,
is this true?
So
I don't know. Anyway, I guess the last and final thing that I wanted to talk about was NVIDIA GeForce. They have their own version of like cloud gaming, and currently I guess it's in free beta right now. So I'm just interested to see what they can do. And it says that you can stream hundreds of games with your own collection on PC, Mac, or NVIDIA Shield TV streaming box. So it's like a very
they've had
limited,
this service
I guess,
for a while. I think now they're expanding upon it now that everyone else is kind of getting to the cloud because they've always had the service where you can play because I have an NVIDIA Shield for like my TV.
You do? What?
Yeah, that's how I play like Rocket League and stuff. Is you can sync it up and it will basically like you have your gaming PC and it will basically stream your gaming PC onto your TV and you can just play through that.
I don't know that existed, but
and I find that to be actually like pretty cool. Because then it's like you can play in your living room without having to bring your gaming PC in or anything like that.
Steam did something like that, though, didn't they?
Yeah, they had like this. They have Steam has that too, but like the Nvidia is that they had like the service where you could also, if you didn't have an like at home gaming PC, you could connect to one of their like host server ones or whatever and play like a certain like they had like a. The selection wasn't that large, but I know that they had like their own games that you could play, just like Google Stadia did. I think now that Google's coming into this, you know, the world, like now NVIDIA's like, well, shoot, we got to like start stepping this up, you know.
Yeah, the thing is that there's some other interesting ones. The Amazon, joined the game streaming service here, and I know that Sony didn't really say too much about what's going on with their service that they're going to be launching, but it's going to be what a couple years is going to be for gamers in general. I remember when I was a kid, and I'm sure you can attest to this because every gamer wanted to be able to play that's one game like somewhere other than just the console or just the computer. You know what I'm saying? Like they wanted to be like,
man, wanted to play it at school.
Yes, that's 100% true.
Play.
Dude, I would take shop class more often because my shop teacher never paid attention. So if that were the case, I'd be streaming right on my phone right then and there. But your parents are going to kill you because you're going to blow through data like no one's business. So
yeah, I think data plans for phones are going to have to start stepping it up. They're going to have like the gaming plan or something.
The gaming bundle. Yeah,
I think it's interesting that gaming has kind of blown through, and it's like it took a long time before we got from like 480 to like 360 to 480 to 720 to 1080 and then 4K, and then gaming's coming over here like, all right, so we're doing 8K like next, like we're skipping over 4K now. Like that's the funny thing to me.
Are 8K capable?
Yeah, because I know
like the Kool-Aid man breaking down that door.
Isn't IMAX like 8K or something like that?
You're asking the wrong person.
It's like like 10K or something. I know it's supposed to be like an insane resolution, but like you have to have like specific cameras and everything to watch an IMAX movie in that like to even have like an IMAX movie. So like that's why you don't see very many IMAX movies, like just in general, because like they have to be filmed in that resolution to even work on a screen that large.
Yeah. Hold on a second. What? This doesn't even make what? Hold on 1 second. I don't want to cite something from Wikipedia. That's like the one place I don't want to cite it from because that's a bad idea. But IMAX, it looks. I don't know.
I don't know, man. In 6th grade, my library teacher told me, or not library teacher, just the librarian in my school, told me that Wikipedia was a great source for looking things up. And then 7th grade came along and they said, no, you can't use Wikipedia anymore. I'm like, what? Last year they said it was great.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. But they're saying different stuff. Some of the resolution they say, I'm not sure if this is true, and I'm reading different things, and this is the second time. So maybe it's 6K resolution. I don't even know if that's even a thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like I remember it wasn't like 8K or 4K. It was like an off. That sounds right. Yeah, I think it's like 6K or something. But
yeah,
like I said, like I think it's funny that gaming has just like kind of pushed this new realm of like media. Like now, because it used to be like 4K like TVs and everything. We're like, well, why do you need one? Because not very many things are in 4K. And now it's gonna be like, oh yeah, well, your Xbox is gonna be able to play 4K or 8K, so your 4K TV is already like too behind. I just think it's funny that like now they're creating the need for better monitors and TVs, and I'm sure like Sony, which makes PlayStation, is gonna be like, well, this is great. We make TVs. We make like, why don't we just capitalize on the fact that I always wondered that like why doesn't like PlayStation have anything with like Sony TVs where you could like have like a PlayStation TV, kind of like Apple has like their own like monitor built into their actual PC or whatever. I always wonder why that never. Sure. I don't know. I guess maybe that's just me with wishful thinking.
No, I kind of thought about it as well. I mean, there's so many avenues in which gaming can happen, but I think that they wouldn't find it advantageous. I don't know.
I think it would be pretty cool, and I would buy it. It would have to be like the elite, like you're not a PC gamer, you're not a console gamer, you're like a
TV gamer.
Yeah, TV gamer, where you just buy the TV like pre-made with like stats and everything. And then watch somebody buy this and be like, I have the ultimate Netflix TV.
But I'm trying to think of how they would actually like they store it in a little box in the back to like how to run like what it runs off of technically, because what's in the TV I'm sure couldn't justify what the game would need,
Yeah, like, well, like they can do like what Apple does, where like they just flatten out the entire PC on the back of the monitor so that it's still thin.
But then the TV is going to cost a crap ton.
I mean, yeah, but that's the whole. But Apple costs a whole ton, so.
Yeah, I know that's tough.
I can just imagine it being like the new thing when you come to somebody's house, like they have like their TV over there and it's glowing the little like PlayStation logo. Just been like, this is the PlayStation TV.
I don't know if I'd buy into that TV, but the system itself by pulling AK for Project Split, with Microsoft, I don't know, man. That still blows my mind because I understand that they're not going to make AK games like right off the bat unless they are, which I didn't hear about, but that's still the capability they're predicting for the future, and that's fantastic. But like I said, in my opinion, they're so far away from utilizing K right now that that AK is so far off in the distance, and I would just assume that Microsoft would come out with another Xbox, like a slim, like Project Scarlet Slim or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, like they did with their previous
before that they actually introduced AK actually into the gaming system. So in my mind, them coming out with already saying like, oh, Project Scarlet's going to have AK right out the gate. Like, I think it's a little premature in my opinion. I just don't see them utilizing that at all.
Kind of off-putting the cost of having, because like we have such an expensive like hardware like that, they're probably going to be like, well, you need to buy an external SD card or something to like have actual memory storage on your Scarlet, and you'd be like, oh, well, dang, now I can't actually, I have to like pay more than I actually thought I would, or something.
I don't know. I think it's interesting, but I mean, like, if you think about it, every implementation of every console in the past is always like, they're like, okay, well, the Xbox has 1080p. Oh, 4K just came out. Well, it's the Xbox Slim, and it's gonna have 4K. I just assumed that they were gonna do 4K was their main resolution, and they can perform at a high frame rate and all that stuff. But like them dropping the 8K from the very beginning blows my mind because marketing
I thought that
for
there
one.
Was gonna be I'm definitely with you on that. I thought there was going to be that phase where they were trying to solidify 4K, like make sure that 4K was as best as it could be with like the highest frame rate, like 200 frames per second or whatever.
Dude, I look at 4K right now and I'm like, dang, that's a beautiful picture. Like, I can't even imagine like seeing a game. Like, do you think that the developers and their art would get that detailed that they would actually utilize 8K? Is what I'm asking, I guess.
I feel like
it's just there's
going to be a lot of shortcuts because I know there's like a lot of different like 3D rendering loopholes and like shortcuts and just like things. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like you can like bake your thing where you can have shadows in like a certain scene, but they like bake it onto the model so that like it looks like it has like it's rendering shadow, but actually the shadow's not. And they have to use a bunch of shortcuts just to...
Of course. But I'm just saying, like, there's going to be a lot.
They can only fake so much before you're like, well, 8K, I can see everything that they're not actually doing for reals. Like, they're not doing real render.
I'm still baffled by the move by Microsoft, but I mean, I can't really blame them. I mean, that sounds really, really pretty when you go, our console has 8K right out the gate, so...
Yeah,
you're ready.
Like, is there anything above 8K that anybody uses? Like, we've already saw that IMAX has 6K. Like, can the eye even see the fact that, that's the one thing I can't, like, can your eye, like, do we even need any better resolution? Like, once you have a good resolution and a frame rate, like, what's left?
Just get 4K on, like, some kind of, like, what am I like a visual like VR headset or something like that? Get 4K on that, get it down pat. That's what I want.
They have like 1080p is like the highest they've gone, but like those are
get
so
4K.
Expensive. Yeah, so it's not
VR pat. That's what I want.
Oh, and
that's what I'm saying. That would sell it.
Is 4K wide angle. Right now it's very like when you have VR headsets, they're kind of like a tunnel vision. You can only see straight forward. And what I mean, like, hold hands next to your eyes and kind of push them in a little bit, and that's your field of view in a VR headset. So you aren't emulating like the realistic human angle where you have like 178 degrees of sight or something. I don't know what it is. 168. I'm just making up numbers at this point. But
why not 360 like an owl? Go ahead. But
yeah,
by all means,
yeah, that's how VR headsets kind of, I feel like they should be. I think that's where it's gonna. I think you're right. Like next stop is gonna be VR, where it's so realistic they already have realistic hand gloves.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Create heat and cold, and create like actual touch and tension, and that's the thing that I'm excited for. Oh, and I think we forgot to mention that Steam has like their new it's kind of been out, but like they're starting to announce their own VR like console and handheld hardware and stuff, where they've got like that's the one thing I love is that they have the I can't remember what they're called now. The name slips me, but they have their own VR handsets or whatever, where like it straps around so that they can tell which finger is extended to which one is rolled in, so they can tell if you're making a fist or if you're holding your hand out, because it like just attaches to your palm. You don't actually hold the controller.
So the pressure, more or less.
Yeah, so like there's like a little sensor so it knows where your
That's
fingers
really cool.
are at. It's so cool. And I've seen if you've seen Project it's Stress Level Zero, the game company. They're making the game Boneworks, and it's just so realistic where they try to like incorporate all like real physics into VR, and like it's never been done before. I don't know. I'm excited for VR a lot more than a lot of
that's what I'm saying, man. Like if you were say 4K V or 8K resolution gaming, I would pick the 4K VR. Like, get it down pat.
I love 4K VR, and I think they really need to figure out the gaming situation, because I think there's just a lot of gaming companies have kind of like dabbled in VR and then moved on, and I really would wish that a couple of them would come back and invest in at least one solid VR title. You know, I want to be made for VR, not a game that's like Minecraft and then you put it
adapted
VR.
for VR. Yeah,
like I want it to be an entirely new title, and maybe that's Pescador and I's brand new idea that we're gonna create a $1 billion franchise off of for our next game. You know, the Rad Comrades, the adventure
4K VR experience.
Yeah, that'll be our new game.
Absolutely.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the Rad Gaming Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and rate and subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever else you listen to podcasts. We release a new episode every Wednesday and Friday. And as always, stay rad, comrades.